Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, May 12th, and this is virtual lunch number 804. Our guest today is Greg Coates, the new VP of Generative AI at Litera, and this is part of our series on practical AI with both CasePoint and Litera.
So I joined Litera from HG, which is the private equity firm that invested in Litera a few years ago. I was involved in the investment back then. I was kind of the legal tech. We had a legal tech investment practice at HG, which I was leading with my colleague Hector. So I've been working with Litera really closely for the last 4 or 5 years now. And I very much fell in love with the business over the last 4 or 5 years, putting my nose in where maybe it wasn't wanted and trying to get involved. And as we started down this Gen AI journey, it just felt like too interesting an opportunity not to kind of barge my way in and say, look, I'd really like to be involved. I also think it gives me a slightly unique perspective coming into this, where firstly, Litera has also been very acquisitive over the last few years. We've brought some great businesses into the Litera brand umbrella, and I've been very closely involved with all of those. Around each, there is a very kind of distinct and clear vision around where it fits into the product portfolio, how it can integrate to provide more value to customers, where the kind of joint innovation efforts can be. One of the kind of most exciting things when we really start to understand generative AI and then the kind of potential of this technology is how much it can accelerate what it is we were looking to do there. The kind of the vision of how we think the data comes together and the knowledge comes together between those products suddenly looks like a kind of much nearer term objective than it did 3 to 6 months ago. There are a lot of product leaders in legal tech that have come from the law firm side of the industry. So the legal tech is forever filling up with really interesting startups founded by very, very smart lawyers who get fed up, say, I wish there's a tool that could do this, and decide to go and build it. And they build great businesses. There are not many legal tech product people that have come from the client side, is my experience, or I haven't met many of them. And I think that gives me a slightly different perspective on this, because one of my frustrations observing legal tech from the investment side over the past few years is this, I think, over rotation towards a narrative that we should be designing legal tech to reduce the cost to serve of the legal industry, and this kind of narrative that all legal work is getting compressed in margin and clients just want cheaper and faster, it's all commoditized. And I just don't believe it. In an ideal world, and our ambition here is that every product should be looking to get something using this technology onto its roadmap, in the second half of this year, if not this quarter. In terms of prioritizing that, well, the question is, can you do all of that? If I'd come in 2 years ago and said, look, I want to put AI onto every product's roadmap, the bottleneck would have been, well, you're going to need a lot of machine learning kind of specialists and data scientists. Those people are A, hard to find, B, extremely expensive. So you're going to have to really prioritize where you start. That isn't the case anymore. It's a bit like public cloud, right? Where not many businesses host stuff in their own data centers anymore, because you can just go to AWS or Azure or Google and go and very quickly fire up cloud hosting. And this is somewhat similar, where you can go and tap into incredible AI with an API, which means products that historically just didn't have the expertise to pick this stuff up can now. That prioritization question becomes slightly easier, but it still means, I suppose, I'm only one person. There is only so many places we can focus. We have tasked every team with trying to find something with this technology. It's a kind of a question of existing roadmap priorities. Is the use case more valuable than what customers are currently asking for? The bits I'm most excited about, if I call out 3, we've Kira is obviously a very well-known name in legal AI. It gives us a great foundation of both skills and existing workflow in AI. And it also seems to be the due diligence workflow is one that people have immediately turned to when thinking around, where can I put this technology to work? I think there is a huge opportunity here to take the next step in the value chain of due diligence. So we've been using AI in that workflow to provide value to lawyers for, Kira's been doing it for 10 years now for the majority of the AmLaw 100 and beyond. This brings new capabilities to the table that would allow us to unlock more value for lawyers, particularly around the analysis stage. My answers to questions are only current beliefs, and I reserve the right to come back with a whole new view in tomorrow, because we're all learning so quickly. Building legal tech, lawyers don't give you multiple chances. If we're going to put a product in front of lawyers, it has to wow them. Otherwise, they're not going to come back and use it again. And this is the highest risk stuff we're going to try and do that with. It's hard enough with a kind of bog standard workflow tool where if the user experience isn't quite right, if it has a bug, the chances that lawyer ever, unless they have to come in to interact with your software again, are pretty low. our worry with this stuff is that if we are not super confident it's going to give you the right answer every time, then the moment the lawyer tries it for the first time and it's right, the second time it's right, third time it gives it something nonsense. It gives the lawyer something nonsense back. We're going to lose that lawyer's trust immediately because the lawyer can't afford to make mistakes. And you're right, they're conservative people in their job. So trying to figure out ways that we shouldn't be putting software in front of lawyers pertaining to do a job until we're very confident it can do that job. And so a lot of firms are in a way for experimentation, and they should be, and we encourage them to be, where let's get GPT in our firm, let's get a GPT derivative in our firm, and let lawyers play around with it, with the disclaimer that it's likely to be wrong. As we get towards the next wave of software where we are genuinely embedding it in the daily workflow of lawyers and hoping they rely on it, we can't have that inaccuracy in there. The idea that users have never before had to interact with software that might be wrong. You're used to clicking on a button and it does what you expect it to do every time. The idea that you might click a button and it does something that you think is right, it's always convincingly wrong if it's wrong. The idea that you might click it and then actually have to think, hang on, did it get it right, is a very new experience for people going into software, and that's dangerous. To the solution of that, I think this is why initially I think we should be that knowledge management workflow becomes really interesting, because as I said, this is a phenomenally powerful search tool and huge new capabilities in what it can do around search. You can turn the temperature down on this to 0 and have it purely surfacing content from the firm's repositories, from different data sources in the firm, in ways you haven't been able to do before, where it has no creative license. The danger comes of how much are we willing to turn the creative license up? And I've heard some very, very polar opposite views from firms so far of sort of, over my dead body, will you ever turn that temperature up to yeah, let's go for it. My lawyers are smart enough to figure it out. I'm very excited to see where the industry lands. We're happy to go either way. I remain super bullish on this technology. It's very easy to focus on the pitfalls of it. I think there's going to be some absolutely incredible innovation coming out of this. There's also going to be some bumps along the road, right? It's like when we very first saw cloud coming into the legal industry and everyone was nervous of, can I put my client's data in cloud data centers? And everyone knew at some point we were going to have a data breach. And obviously we have multiple times of data breaches, but that kind of first one of, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean we all say we're not going to the cloud? Does that mean we say, okay, shit happens, we'll do it anyway? And I think we're going to have some interesting moments on the way of this, where at some point a law firm is going to make a mistake because they use generative AI where they shouldn't, or a junior lawyer does something on generative AI and it creates liability for the client. And when that happens, and I'm sure there will be something public about it at some point, what happens? How do we respond when kind of big innovative things and big progress happens? There's always some bumps on the road, and we're going to learn some hard lessons on the way. But I think you're right. Getting over the trust barrier is going to be really hard here. AI is not new to legal. There's been AI in legal for 25 years in e-discovery. Are there fewer litigators in the world? There's been AI in M&A due diligence for 10 years. Are there fewer M&A lawyers in the world? No. It has been around for a long time in other forms. We shouldn't write off all the AI that came before this as useless. It's all still got value. It's just this is a different branch of machine learning and AI. It hasn't replaced lawyers in the past. They've found more valuable things to do. They've just moved out of doing crappy discovery work, and we've found machines can do that instead. It's like data rooms. In my old industry, data rooms used to be physical data rooms, and then virtual data rooms came along. Is there any less need for people? No, not really. I actually think this is a technology that a lot of people can get involved with, because you don't need to be a PhD in machine learning. I think there are smart data engineers out there that could get involved with this stuff very quickly. I think a lot of the real skills here to some really valuable people that really understand how to fine tune and train models and help you through that where it's applicable. There are a lot of cases I don't think you need it for. There is a second set of skills which I think is always valuable in legal tech, which is lawyers. Because I've never met a great legal tech business that wasn't founded in some way or didn't have a strong ex-lawyer on the founding team.
Greg Coates, everybody. What a great conversation. Thank you so much. Certainly, we all wish you the very best of luck in this new and exciting role. Thanks to you and to Litera and CasePoint about, just supporting this series on practical AI. Awesome, everyone. Have a great day.